Hi, thanks for watching another episode of My Wisconsin Backyard. I'm Brian Ewig.
And I'm Tracy Newman. We begin season 2 with some new and exciting stories from around your community.
Glider ready.
It's a sailplane, and in our next show, we'll take you soaring and tell you what it takes to fly one.
Plus, we'll show you the traditional Hmong game of Tulu and introduce you to a 90-year-old ballroom dancer.
All right, let's get right to the show. Brian, do you have that tape?
Yeah, I got the tape. It's right over here. Tapes. Why does it always have to be tapes? Tape. Got it again. Gotta find it somewhere. Where is that tape? All right, Tracy, I got it. I got the tape. We can start the show now.
Great. I was just looking for a dry place to set my phone.
Oh.
This is how ugly the stuff looks. But then they turn into something like that. This was a dairy barn in Cross Plains, Wisconsin. And these are oak barn beams that are 150 years old. And it's gonna be a dining room table for a guy in Milwaukee. One night, just looking on the internet, I saw a picture of this American flag made out of barnwood, and I just had to have it. And I thought, well, it can't be that hard to make. So I drove around the countryside looking for barns. I needed a gray barn and a white barn and a red barn, and I found those three colors. I don't have any training. I didn't have any schooling on any of this. I didn't have a mentor. My friend taught me how to weld for a few hours once. But after that, it's just like making mistakes, and yeah, I guess you learn faster from the mistakes. There's about a half a barn here. Usually a barn is, 10, 20 tons worth of material. And it takes about 350 hours to take one down, starting with the shingles, and then the roofing boards, and then the siding, and the framing, and even the nails. I save all the nails and put on a trailer. I try to use every bit of it. The majority of what I do is barnwood. For one, this is Wisconsin, it's what we have. And the stories behind this material are run pretty deep. I've had people from like England and New Zealand call me and say, "Oh my gosh, that was my great uncle so-and-so's barn. I saw this on the internet." This is the original City of Madison flag. I think I'm sharing history. I think a lot of this material, it would just go in a landfill if I wasn't using it. Then it's a whole nother thing when you can save the stories as well. I picked up a bag of litter on a trip. So all the litter represents where the national parks are in the lower 48. If I can save more, then a few other people, then I can just like, it makes up for the people that maybe aren't recycling. And I feel like I can impact a little more than the average household. I don't know what it's like to live in some other states that aren't that cool, but our state's awesome and people love it. So it's cool that I'm kind of just showing people what we already have, redoing it a different way.
This is a sport the Hmong people play back in Laos a long time ago. And then now we bring it to America. It's a new sport called Tulu.
Back where we came from, our parents are, like farmers, and we don't have time to gather together like this. So the only time we play this during New Year time. You harvest, and this is the only time that you have time to spend your time with your family, friends, and relatives. This is what gets them together.
You could do it every day after work. It become a habit for everybody. So this a lot different from where we're coming from. And then you will play from 8 level, from 10 feet to 70 feet.
And all you do is just put the line like this. Some people, they make it nice and loop like this, but for me, I just go crazy with it. And then when you throw, you just hold like this and just throw it at the same time and just follow through and the top will go. The game consists of stages. So the first stage, it consists of offense and defense. The defense are the one who spin, and the offense is the one who hit. The offense try to spin as hard as they can, and the offense is the one who's trying to knock their top off. And if I'm the offense and mine doesn't spin as long as the defense, I don't get a point. In the second stage, it's not a defense or offense. And in the third stage and fourth and fifth, all you do that's why we have this flag. We cap it like this. And the last one is the one that has the highest score.
I basically grew up playing this game and created great friendships. It's really like, once you get to know it, it's really fun and competitive. Like the younger Hmong people, there's other sports like volleyball and soccer and football. They all usually prefer that, but like I just want like the new generation to like see how people used to play with each other back in our country.
It seems like the game is dying out, but what we're trying to teach these kids and get them motivated is to make sure to keep the traditional alive.
Back home, it's like you hardly have a time to enjoy yourself with all the friends in the community. You have to have a habit. Otherwise, you cannot just stay at home after work, because this country, not just us, but everybody gotta have habit. You gotta have something to do after work. Go out there, have fun, enjoy yourself.
Well, I married a dancer. She'd been dancing since the age of 3.
Gentlemen, we want to welcome you to the first day of competition.
I had planned nothing for our 33rd wedding anniversary. And so we went in for our first dance lesson on the 21st of December, which was our 33rd anniversary. We stuck together for 63 years. She gave me 5 kids and many, many dances. She loved it, and she loved everybody in the studio. and they loved her. If she were sitting this close to you, she'd pinch you. Always full of mischief.
It was hard on all of us when Mom passed, but this gave him something to look forward to.
Look, say together, look.
I think it's probably the most important activity in his life right now.
Nice. He is not just student, he is inspiration for everybody. Nice. Age, this is not reason to start to dance. It's not a reason. It's dance keep you young, keep you beautiful, and keep great like Mr. B. Nice. Awesome. He's a talent. He's just one and only.
Well, the payoff for both Betty and me has been a series of memories, which are awfully nice to carry along as you age along, and adventures, friendships, but finally that it has kept me able to be so independent. And it's nice to be able to entertain people. And they remember that. If you can do a job, in some cases just a matter of giving them a laugh, you've left them with something that made them happier. That's a winner.
So what is this here?
This was a couple of years after Betty passed, and I did When I Fall in Love, and the pictures in the background are my wife. And everybody in the audience knew that and recognized her. What a wonderful way to create a memory. So that's dedicated to my bride.
Is that one of your favorite dances?
Yes. I got all tingly when I was doing that, yeah. So let's see. Here's Nastya.
I'm gonna...
You want the sticks?
Yes, let's do that. It's fun
You
one.
make me feel so young.
I know, we have special number.
Let's see it.
Okay. Okay, Mr. B, ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4. Walk. Ballroom dancing, keeping your mind very sharp. Amazing for not just for the body, but for brain as well. Because once we're dancing, it's multiple stuff is going on in our head. Because you need to control not just your own body, you need to control your dance partner.
It's very surprising. People don't think there's much athleticism, but even when you're dancing slowly, you're using muscle against muscle in that slow motion to control it. And this gives you more exercise than you might think.
I guess some people could very easily just fall into inactivity. I think that can lead to depression in older people. And if you have something to look forward to and something to try and achieve, you avoid that.
She's watching in her own way.
A glider works just like a power plant, only it trades altitude for energy. And so the gravity provides your energy to give the lift in the wings that support the aircraft in the air.
And a short count for that radio check. Thank you.
All right, so our guys are spotting for other traffic in the area. The tow plane is going forward and taking the slack out. Clear? Go. Glider ready. All right, so we're at 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet above ground. I'm gonna check, make sure there's no traffic around you, and pull on that yellow knob, and we'll turn right to tow plane, we'll go left. Pull it straight out. Yep. All right, here we go. All right. Good tow, thanks, Ed. It's absolutely the most relaxing, wonderful thing in the world. I love the connection with weather. Meteorology, you know, weather controls our world. And the idea of being able to go up here and literally use the energy from the sun to see aloft and not use any gasoline or electric power, or, I mean, once we use our tow, this is free. It's like sailboat. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking us over to the city. The city usually gives off more heat. The sun, there's blacktop parking lots, there's many of these factories, and that warms up the air and creates the lift. So if you have warm air at the bottom and cold air, it's going to rise. Just like, you know, warm water goes to the top, warm air goes to the top. See how the noise starts going up? So now we turn into it. Now if you look at that instrument on your right, that variometer, it's going down right now, it's below zero. Yeah. So when we come back around into the lift, hopefully it will start gaining altitude. And then we can fly to the next thermal. And you can do this for hours and hours. So we just gained 200 feet. We're looking for the traffic coming at us, which I see none. And we go out off to the side so we don't block the runway.
The purpose of smoking is for them to kind of go into more of a defensive action and protect the hive and get back in there. They aren't going to get out as much to attack. They're more about protecting what's in there at that point. So think of it in the wild. If there's a forest fire, they're going to go and try to protect where they're at and not explore. This is kind of mimicking that in a controlled setting. For the top bar, we lay these bars across the top. They're very loose. What happens is then the honeybees create what's called propolis. You can see a little bit of it here, all of the cracks in here, and create a solid structure underneath. When we're coming into the hive, we're looking at this to pop that propolis off so we can actually expose the honeycomb and honey that the bees have created. So this is what they're building their wax off of on the top. You can see how it was dipped in wax, and then from that they start to build their honeycomb down. So you can see the honey coming off of there.
The bees actually have two stomachs. They have their own digestive stomach, but they also have a stomach where they take the nectar back, and then they process it with inside their body, and they put it in the wax, and then it's a fair amount of water in it, and eventually they have to take the water, they evaporate the water out. When they get it to the consistency of honey, then they cap it, and that's for preservation, and it keeps them over the winter time.
So this is all of it's in the wax, and then this up here is capped. This is uncapped. So they'll cap the honey when the moisture is completely gone from it. So these down here, there's still a moisture content on it a little bit. That would be your solid honey that you would really try to process. Typically, we would do it once a year. We want to make sure that they have enough to get themselves going. We also don't want to take honey from the population that it's using to survive throughout the course of the spring, summertime. We'll make sure we leave plenty of honey in here to not set off an alarm within the hive that they need to collect more.
And that's about 3 pounds or so. When you uncap it, it allows you to save the wax, and you use a centrifuge, and then you don't destroy the wax as much, and the bees can fill it up the next time. This would be the very first thing to do before we put it in the centrifuge. And this centrifuge will spin around, and there'll be 4 frames in there. The centrifugal force will spin the honey out. We're going to do half of one side, then we're going to flip them around and do the whole other side, and then do the remainder. As a family physician, I used to recommend honey a lot to people, except for the first year of life. Bacteria cannot grow in honey, so that's why it's kind of sterile. Honey is actually used for medicinal purposes. They can use it for salves. You could have 2 hives, and one hive could go 2 miles one direction. The other hive decides to go a mile the other direction to get honey. And with their communication skills, those hives will continue to go exactly to those same places. So you could have one type of honey from one hive, right next to it, the other hive has something totally different.
Thanks for watching another episode of My Wisconsin Backyard.
To see more of our short stories, check us out on Facebook and Instagram or MilwaukeePBS.org.